This month we are getting another double dose of the author guest host I've invited onto the show. Last month, Paul D. Smith provided you with his list, and for March, I've invited my friend and fellow local author, Claire Annette Noland, to return to the show and share her 10 picks for this month's list. Take it away, Claire.
Hey, my name is Claire Noland, and I am an author of picture books, board books, magazines, all sorts of things. But I do prioritize picture books. I'm excited to be here again to celebrate my top 10 books in the category of making do with what you have. This is my book, Nancy Best Had a Dress, published by Gnome Road Publishers, and the illustrator is Angela C. Hawkins. It tells the story of a young girl. It's set in the Depression in California in the 30s, where people had to make do with what they had. She gets a flour sack, which she makes a dress, but when she outgrows it, she makes it into something new until she's left with just scraps and figures out something very fun to do with the scraps. Another maker book, the classic, is Joseph Had a Little Overcoat by 10's Taback. It's a Yiddish story about a man who has a coat, but it gets frayed and old, and he also makes it into different things. The story Small Things Mended by Casey Robinson and illustrated by Nancy Whiteside tells a story about a man who's lonely, but a child needs some help fixing things, so he does that. Well, soon everybody comes to help to have things fixed. But what happens when a young girl comes with her toy elephant that has a broken heart? He finds a very clever way to do that, and also a way to make friends. Paula's Patch tells a story of a girl who is from a very impoverished family, and her clothes have holes and are torn, and she learns how to fix them and keep using them, and she helps her other friends to do the same. Made by Maxine by Ruth Stone and Holly Haddam is a very fun book about an enterprising girl who can make a lot of things, but how is she going to get her goldfish in the parade? Read it and find out. Do-It-Yourself Dollhouse by Shannon Anderson with illustrations by Julia Pintas is a sweet book about a girl who makes a dollhouse out of boxes. And her friend, who has just a plastic one, learns it's much more fun to use your imagination. Be a Maker by Katie Howes with illustrations by Elizabeth Vukovic tells all sorts of different ways that you can find things around and make new things. To Make by Danielle Davis with pictures by Mags DeRoma is another one, encouraging children to gather and make fun things. Keep making. This is a nonfiction biography called Dressing Up the Stars, the story of movie costume designer Edith Head. Written by Jeanne Walker Harvey with illustrations by Diana Toledano. This is about a famous woman who grew up in the desert and dressed up her animals with different things that she found around. And she went on to become an Oscar award-winning fashion designer. Ada's Violin is by Susan Hood with illustrations by Sally Wern Comport will just tug at your heartstrings. This is a true story about children who live around a dump, and a man who comes and helps them make instruments, and they form an orchestra made from instruments from recycled goods and travel around the world inspiring people. Finally, number 10, I have Harriet Power's Journey from Slave to Artist in Sewing Stories by Barbara Herkert and illustrated by Vanessa Brantley Newton. It tells the story of young Harriet who made a quilt and was on a plantation, and they kept their stories alive through quilts. So all of these books are here to encourage people to use what you have and make the best using your imagination. Thanks for joining me.
I'll have more from Claire for Creator's Corner in just a bit, but if you're interested in picking up any of the titles she recommended, you'll find those books and their ISBN numbers listed down in the video description.